You know, when it comes to embellishing in tango, there's a lot of fireworks that we can learn as followers and as leaders, but embellishments is really the followers' realm. And I remember when I started learning tango, within a couple of months, I was doing embellishment classes. And we tend to think that embellishments are these kind of exciting movements that we have to learn in addition to the dance. But in this lesson, I actually want to show you one of the simplest embellishments that you can introduce into your dance that you probably already know, but you just don't know how exactly to use it. Now, the movement is a tap. Tapping means that you use your free foot, and when you're not stepping, you can tap it on the ground. You can tap it on the ground to the side. You can tap it behind yourself. You can tap your front foot before stepping back. It can be done in any direction. One of the ways that we first learn tapping in class, and this might look familiar, is we're told to walk on the slow beat, which would look like this, and between the two beats that are the slow beat, there's the half beat. And so I can actually tap on the half beat, so it would look like this. Now, what is the actual technique for tapping? It's very simple. You tap your foot on the ground. But there's a couple of tips I want you to remember to make sure that the tap looks nice. One of them is that in general, you want to prevent your knee of the free leg going forward. So if I tap behind myself here, I will tap keeping my knee behind my standing leg slightly, so it doesn't come forward, so it's not a kick. So you don't want to do this. Step, kick, and then forward. So you want to feel that the tap is happening behind the knee. Okay. The other thing is watch the alignment of your foot. When you tap, you make sure that you angle the inner part of the foot down to the ground so that the foot, even if it's not pointed all the way, it's slightly turned out, and that will make it look nice. So it doesn't matter whether I'm even tapping here. Even if I'm tapping in front of myself, I'm actually going to reach to the inner part of the foot for the tap so it doesn't end up looking sickled. Okay, now for a lot of you, this might have been a review. You've already learned this in class. You've done some exercises. You've walked and tapped. And you want to actually know when to do it. This is what I faced when I was first learning these embellishments, is that actually doing the embellishments is not the hard part. The hard part is knowing when to do it. So I'm going to give you a little structure to follow so that you understand how to use these embellishments strategically. Every tango song that we dance is built on two main rhythms, marcato in 2 and marcato in 4. Marcato in 2 is that heartbeat rhythm, that pulse of the song, the slow beat. And when you're doing double time, when you double that speed, that's marcato in 4. So as a follower, any time that you're dancing, you're doing one of those two timings. 90% of the time, it's really going to be marcato in 2. You're just either walking in slow, or you're doing quick, 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 slow. Okay? Now, whenever you are following, you know that if you're walking on the slow beat, there's that half beat in there. You're not being led to do anything on it, but you know it's there. So if you wanted to sneak in a tap to mark the half beat, which I'm doing right now by collecting, you see how this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I just replace the step with a tap. Okay, so in terms of when to do it, you always have the ability to stick it in anytime you're doing a slow step around your partner. So if my partner has me walking backward, and we're walking in this beat, then I could bring in the taps, and it'd be step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap. If my leader has me go forward, I can do step, tap, step, tap, step, tap. Sometimes the music actually gives you something specific. Remember that tango music, especially the early tangos, they were written for dancers. The musicians are thinking about dancers and how the dancers are going to respond. So there are sometimes very clear signals in the music itself to do something, to show something. And one of those is syncopation. So I'm going to show you a song, El Choclo by D'Arienzo, of course, that this version has a lot of syncopation. And before I go into how to actually time your steps to have them syncopated, I want you to actually watch this little demo first, and then I'll explain to you in a minute. Okay, so first of all, my taps that I was doing were kind of different. They weren't just one kind of tapping, right? We went over the fact that you can tap to the side, to the back, and to the front, but we haven't talked about dynamics, because ultimately the tap is just this hollow container that's given to you as a dancer, and you start to put your expression into it and find your own way of tapping that goes with the music. Imagine that you are showing the sound that you're hearing, that your movement of your tap is the soundtrack of what you are actually hearing in the music. So for me, with D'Arienzo, with those syncopation, rapa, a lot of times it feels like an up, right? So my tap, instead of the energy tapping down, it's like the floor is lava and it's too hot on the floor and I need to bring it up. So it's rapa, right? Instead of rapa. Now the syncopation part now, I'm going to sound it to you because a lot of the songs, especially D'Arienzo of this time period, they have these passages that repeat over and over again. And in this case, the passage, rapa, da 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 rapa, da 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 rapa, da 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 bam ba. This whole passage where you hear that rapa, rapa, that little accent is the signal to show something. Now, if I'm leading, I will show this by my actual collection or something else. I'm not going to tap because I don't really think it looks as good as a leader when you're doing a lot of tapping. But as a follower, you definitely can show a lot of that flavor just by sneaking in a tap. So if this sparked something for you, I'm teaching a webinar on May 27th called Embellish Like You Mean It, How to Stylize Without Overdoing It. In it, we'll talk about the rhythm and the phrasing and how to use your embellishments so they actually fit the music. This webinar is part of my online program. And if you sign up today, you'll get a 30-day free trial, which gives you access to this webinar and everything else in the program. Now, if you want more lessons like this on musicality, styling, and the real tools for dancing socially, go ahead and subscribe. I post new videos every Saturday. I'll see you in the next one.